People Not Titles podcast is brought to you by Land Trust Title Services, your partners for results. Well, hello. This is the February 2025 Market Trends. We're the People Not Titles podcast. I have my cohort, colleague, and good friend, Matt Lombardi here.
Greetings.
And Matt, we got a lot of stuff to cover.
We did. So it's February 3rd.
February 3rd.
Yesterday was Groundhog Day.
Groundhog
Day. Punxsutawney Phil said 6 more weeks of winter.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
We disagreed.
Uh-huh.
So we'll be contrarian here.
We're going on record.
We're going on record.
Where is the groundhog? Where does he come out?
The official one is in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so if it's a cloudy day in that one little area,
it has nothing to do with it.
He doesn't see a shadow.
You know it's...
Yeah, it's
bullshniza. Bullshniza, yeah. It's, whoever the group that runs it, it's fun. The history of it, not that, I'm going to sound like bad dad joke here.
Yeah.
But it was, I think, brought over by German settlers.
It was Germans.
And it was just to break up the monotony of winter. And it was something traditionally done, I think, in Europe. They brought it when they emigrated here.
Break the monotony. Look at
break the monotony, and it's like, is it 6 more weeks of winter or spring, and does it really matter?
And today we're sitting in Chicago, and it is basically summer. I mean, it's like 40 degrees or 50.
It's beautiful up.
Yeah, just gorgeous.
Anyway.
Okay, Matt, breaking news, Compass.
So yeah, this just came out. This is breaking news of the day. Compass came out and has announced that they are creating something called Compass One, which is a new client portal. One side for buyers, one side for sellers. It's brand new. We don't have much information on it. The takeaway from this new Compass One is, and we were talking, Steve and I were just talking about this, is what does this really mean? Is this going to be in violation of a clear cooperation policy, which is a whole separate issue that we're not going to talk about, but that is an NAR mandate that says within 24 hours of a listing, you have to post it on the MLS. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the real estate industry about this. This is one takeaway from this Compass One is this may create this pocket listing and create their own almost database of proprietary properties that they may not share with others in an MLS platform.
Right, and so really, we're just two guys talking about this, but what I would say is the disadvantage to this, to me, if I'm a buyer or a seller, is when I'm on the MLS or a platform like that, I have exposure everywhere. When I'm on anything more limited, it now becomes more limited, more exclusive, which gives me, as a buyer or seller, less access to other properties, and as a buyer. As a seller, it gives me less exposure.
Correct.
So it might be a good recruiting tool in some ways for Compass to say, oh, we got this platform. But to me, they might have a different argument for it. It sounds limited.
Right. And as a seller, you want your property, when you're marketing and selling your property, you want it everywhere. You want every available buyer to see that property.
Absolutely.
So this may limit it anyway. So that's breaking news number one. Breaking news number two, which is President Trump announced this past Friday he's going to enact tariffs, 25% on Mexico, 25% on Canada, 10% on China. That was announced, I think, 2 p.m. this past Friday. The markets hated it. Everything dropped. Today, the markets came out down. They're actually creeping back up. There's a wait and see. The prognosticators will say this is the worst idea ever. Everything price is going to increase for American consumers. The other side to that is it may not have it. It may be beneficial. Mm-hmm. And there are some things in his first administration where there is proven track record of solar panels that had a tariff on them, washing machines, which had an increased tariff on them, and how the price went up and then came down and now is leveled off. So for those of you out there, we're not going to get crazy about it. The market will react how it reacts. This tariff thing, at the end of the day, we don't want tariffs to impact housing.
Yes.
And that was one of the things we talked about.
We want them to impact it positively.
We wanted to impact it definitely on the positive side of it. The new home builders came out with a press release, I believe, Friday, saying this is the worst thing ever because they're worried about construction.
Lumber.
Materials
Yep.
that are going to potentially go up. And they're going to eat those costs and then have to pass it along to home buyers that are looking at new homes. So let's wait and see. But that's just news du jour of the day. And in fact, Mexico has come back to the table today and said, we are willing to do some of the things that you're asking for. So there is a month grace period before anything is enacted. So we'll see what happens. And if you want to add anything.
Yeah, and I would say just, again, one man's opinion on this is it's pure negotiation to offset a trade imbalance, and that it is to let Canada and Mexico know we're serious about this, and already Mexico has made changes, and they've delayed it. And so the point, every single decision that someone makes in terms of the administration or whatever, it, in my opinion, should not just be measured by the market's immediate fear, paranoia, and reaction, but let's take a look at this after 90 days and say, okay, did it work or didn't it work? And it looks to me like, just first glance, with Mexico particularly, it worked in that there were certain things that Trump wanted to get done, and they said, how serious are you? And Trump said, I'm this serious. And guess what? They said, whoa. And they
right.
I don't want to use the word they bent the knee or whatever it is, but they're coming to an agreement that is going to maybe not even have the tariffs charge 1 penny to anything.
Yep.
So,
yep.
all right.
And what we don't want to happen is a trade war going on between countries, where Canada is threatening to do these things, pull American products off shelves. So my hope is it doesn't get to that. I don't think it will, but more to see.
More to see.
All right,
We'll keep you updated on that. But as it impacts housing, I would say talking to buyers and sellers and realtors and their temperature on this whole thing, the market is doing what the market does.
Correct.
I don't think a buyer or seller is looking at it going, oh my gosh, the tariffs, I'm not going to buy a home, or oh my gosh.
No, it's the industry people looking at this, the economists looking at this.
And blah,
and
blah,
like I
blah.
said, the new home builders, they're looking at this, their association saying, this is bad. We're already not doing well on numerous reasons. You're going to up our costs, which we don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
All right.
Yep. So let's
Matt,
move on.
let's move on. We have this. We're going to talk about the NAR for a little bit because, and primarily I think we talk about the NAR is because it is the national body that the reason realtors are able to call themselves realtors is because of the NAR. They've trademarked this, and you are seeing a bunch of different actions across the board that you see splintering, fracturing, and a lot of fallout.
And reactions now from NAR to address these things.
These things. And so the first thing is there's a law professor named Tanya Monestier that has been a vocal critic of the NAR and a vocal critic of the settlements. And her main, as I review it, her main argument, or one of her main tenets of the argument is, hey, listen, this was a grab by attorneys that had lined their pockets and had very little impact for the benefit of the consumer.
Correct.
And I think that every single expert at the beginning who was in the real estate business said, hey, I don't see how this is going to benefit the consumer. I see how it's going to benefit the attorneys. So it appears here her argument is attorneys are driving this. Even the settlements themselves, the attorneys have left loopholes in them to come back and file more action. And so we'll see, but this is pretty hot and heavy. She is filing appeals and, challenging court rulings. And it appears to me like she is going to be a disruptor in this in terms of is the seller or are the sellers or buyers going to benefit? I think we've already mentioned all the benefits that from a positive standpoint, there's more disclosure on the buy side. There's an understanding of the flow of commissions and all that. But pretty much, Matt, everything's kind of settled back to how they've been doing business, which is the list side is paying the buy side commission, the lion's share of the time, but there is more disclosure, more discussion, there's more agent training and expertise. So we'll see. But the sellers and buyers did not get a huge benefit as a result of these settlements.
Right.
And it seems to me like her argument is the attorneys had.
And I would agree with her argument 100% that these attorneys found this class action opportunity,
Yep.
found a handful of home sellers to sign on the dotted line to say, yes, I will be part of this initial lawsuit in Missouri.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, are those homeowners going to benefit from this settlement? And they will probably get a check for who knows what, $100 maybe?
Yeah.
And does that really offset, quote unquote, the gross commissions that they had to pay?
Yeah, and overall, it appears perhaps that a lot of the brokerages were upset because they didn't feel like they were properly defended. Their whole professional mojo wasn't properly defended by the NAR, and now it could be that the NAR entered into settlements that have loopholes that could still leave everyone exposed.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So
that's-
anyway.
So moving forward, next, and we talked about this on a previous episode about Phoenix Realtors, who created they own their MLS, and they created this new category called MLS Choice Program. For $249, you could join as a member of their local MLS, and you didn't have to have Realtor membership. So this has been a big debate, and so Phoenix Realtors has enacted this. NAR has come back and said, you can't do that. Part of your charter with us is the three-way agreement, which we talked about. When a realtor joins, they join at the local, state, and national. They're saying NAR is now saying, Phoenix, we're going to revoke your charter. They have not revoked it yet, but they said we're going to revoke it. So I don't know where it's at in the channels of that.
Okay.
Phoenix has said, we're holding true to this. We're not changing this new MLS membership category for non-realtors. And so the program is still in place.
Okay, and Matt, just so we're clear on this, so you have local, you have state, and you have national, which are these boards, right?
Correct.
Associations.
They're all affiliated through the three-way charter.
Okay, and Phoenix is local.
Phoenix is a
and
local.
What Phoenix is saying is local gets you access to the MLS, and let state and national create their own value proposition for why you should participate with them. But
Correct.
It shouldn't be the MLS, because it seems to me like the whole thing is I got access to the MLS. That seemed to be, the value proposition seemed to be dumbed down to just that.
Correct.
So I think it's healthy.
And we're going to talk about another lawsuit
All right.
out of Texas. That's coming up.
Okay, coming up.
But but this MLS Choice Program, and Steve and I have said this, and our opinion is this is just the tip of the iceberg. That I think more MLSs are going to be reviewing their affiliation, where realtors are the only ones that have access to the local MLSs.
Okay.
So, more to come. Interesting stuff.
In short, you don't have to be a realtor, which is NAR association,
Correct.
to have access to our MLS. And so what it exposes a little bit is that the NAR was really riding on the backs of these local organizations to do their dirty work or to do their communication, their value proposition, providing the value proposition. And NAR is going to have to say, oh yeah, you get MLS, but we give you this, this, and this.
Correct. For the realtors out there watching or listening to this, think of yourself. Where is your membership affiliate? Where do you feel your membership affiliation is? My hunch is that close to 100% of you, your membership affiliation is with your local board or local association of realtors. Some may say the state as well, because that's part of where
It's
you're
important,
at.
yep.
National is usually, and I would say, is the farthest of those three membership levels. I mean, NAR is doing the NAR thing on the national level, but real estate is local. Your realtor membership, that's where you're going to feel it most, is on the local level.
Matt,
Yes.
so here's my take on this.
Please.
Okay. I believe the NAR does a lot of important things on the national level.
They
do a lot of lobbying. They have a strong, powerful lobby that keep, people, last one to notice the water is the fish. And I believe realtors are swimming in the waters of protection, advocacy, and blah, blah, blah that the NAR does. And so if the NAR can make a good case for that, what they're doing and how they're doing it, I think there's a ton of real estate professionals that will say, we need this.
Yep.
I'm contributing. I'm going to be active. I'm going to be involved. And it isn't just the MLS that you're providing me. Great. The MLS is at the local level, maybe something at the state level. There's a lot of state advocacy that is happening. I know for sure in Illinois, there's a lot of action going on. And if you don't watch it, someone's going to move your cheese.
Right. Just be involved and know what's happening.
Be involved.
You, as a realtor, are paying a lot of money to be part of the Realtor three-way organization. So know what's happening at the national, state, and local levels.
Thank you.
You got it.
All right.
So moving forward, NAR has had, Steve told me this NAR stuff is just the gift that keeps on giving with just news and
love
information.
The content. Yep.
So NAR recently announced 2 new hires to their senior leadership team. So not to discuss what's happened, but NAR has had some problems over the last couple of years with their volunteer leaders being accused of sexual harassment, a failed settlement and lawsuit where they had to settle.
Money coming into the coffers and not knowing where it goes to.
Funds, public organizations being funded by NAR that nobody knows exist. So there's a lot of stuff out here. So there's a lot to clean up, in my opinion. So the first cleanup was Nikia Wright, the new CEO, who was the interim CEO, is now the official CEO. We'll talk about some stuff with her. But she has recently hired 2 new senior staff people. The first being a lady named Sherry Chris, who is an industry veteran, and she's being hired and appointed as an independent consultant and special advisor to the CEO. Sherry Chris, for those of you in the industry, very well respected. She's the former CEO of Better Homes and Gardens and ERA.
So, Matt, it sounds to me like that the industry has a voice and an advocate for what realtors need. So I think it's a smart move.
What I wrote here in the notes is this is pain point number 1 with the members, which is the brokerage community. The large brokers out there felt left out. They were hung out to dry in the settlement. And this is a key hire to help bridge that gap.
Okay.
Because she is a former broker, led one of the bigger brokerages with Better Homes and Gardens and ERA, knows the players, knows the people, and is very well respected. So she's going to work with the CEO and engage with brokerage leaders, fostering open dialogue and better understanding of their needs and concerns.
Man, it made me think of 2 things. One, does the NAR have an NPS score? Like
no.
Agent, so they're not measuring agent satisfaction.
To the best of my knowledge, there is no level of satisfaction measured across their 1.5 million members.
Okay, that's a problem to me. Okay, second thing, so that first off, okay. Does the NAR need DOGE? Do they need a Department of NAR efficiency? Do they need to get Elon Musk in there and cut costs?
They should. It would be interesting to have an independent third party go in there and look at the monolithic budget, revenue, and expenses that exist at the mothership and to say, do you need this? Do you need this? And at the end of the day, I think it's, are you best serving your membership base?
So my prediction is they're going to have something of they're going to have to address those 2 things. Are people more or less satisfied being a part of us? And the second thing is accountability for expenses.
So we talked about this, I think, last month, where they are beginning this outreach program to the members to get feedback via surveys, focus groups.
Good.
In direct communications to get that. I don't know if they'll have measurables on that, but they claim it will be a more direct communication to hear first.
And it will take time, Matt, because
Correct.
they are fighting from behind.
Correct. There's a second hire that was just announced a week or so ago, a gentleman named Jared Grasso. I know Jared, very nice guy. He may still be, but he's going to be the former CEO of New Jersey Realtors, which is a very large state association. He is being hired as their first ever senior vice president of industry relations. And his charge, so Sherry Chris is going to be on the broker side. He is on the association and MLS side to bridge the gap, to have open dialogue and communications with them, to be the point person to hear their concerns and be the conduit of feedback between NAR and them.
Okay, Matt, so I think a bellwether for us is going to be how long these two stay with it.
Well, I was going to say, Sherry, my hunch is she will be shorter term.
Okay.
Because she was retired.
She came out of
She
retirement.
came out of retirement to help NAR. Now, she was very involved with many, from a membership level, like a volunteer leader level. She was very involved in 20 plus years at NAR. So she knows
the workings.
The inner working. She knows the players. And like I said, she's pain point hire number 1 for the broker side. Jared is pain point 2 number 2 hire for the Realtor Association side and MLS side, because that's where things are bubbling up, where there's discontent with the members, there's discontent with the MLSs saying, we want to open up membership, you're going to say we still have to leave it at Realtor membership. So there's a whole lot to do with this.
So Matt, I know we're going to talk about Nikea, but kudos to Nikea for having the foresight, because she's not an industry person, which that might be a good thing.
Correct.
And so she's getting industry experts in to really, bring her up to speed on some things. I'm sure she's a smart person, but also that has everyone feeling like they have a voice into the process and insight. So I think it's a good move.
Yep. Moving forward. So those of you in the industry and watching or listening to the podcast, Inman News is a huge industry source of information, founded by a gentleman named Brad Inman, who is still involved at some level. They're based out of San Francisco, but they're a national news source. Mm-hmm. And so they have industry events. This last one took place in January.
In New York?
In New York, Inman Connect New York. And so part of their programming was a one-on-one interview with Brad Inman and Nikea Wright. And I've seen these.
Hey, thanks for listening to the People Not Titles podcast. We are brought to you by our great sponsors, Land Trust Title Services, your partners for results.
I've seen these and been involved with these in the past with previous NAR CEOs, and usually they're very adversarial, very not fun. And
you're on the hot seat.
NAR, depending on who the CEO was, it was like, here's your take, here's our take, and it was adversarial. This interview, which there is a YouTube clip of it, it's about a 25-minute interview. If you did a search for Nikea Wright Inman Connect interview, it's actually a very good interview, and she lays it all out on the line. For those of you that know who she is, as Steve said, she is not a real estate background. She does not have she didn't come from real estate. She came from, I think she was a consultant, and then segued into becoming the CEO of the Chicago Sun-Times, which was on the brink of bankruptcy, changed that, brought it around. They merged with our local public NPR affiliate.
Yeah, and I was going to ask,
became a nonprofit.
Yeah, the Sun-Times. I mean, I don't know. Like, is that a comeback story? Because I didn't know the Sun-Times came back.
So they are no longer a public company, and I don't know what they are categorized in.
Okay.
They may be like a not-for-profit.
Stop them from going out of business.
Correct. But in this interview, she was very good and said NAR has a lot of work to do. Transparency was a big key message of her. We need to be more transparent with our members. We need to talk and learn from our members. Some things she didn't, some questions like what you were saying, like, where's this money going? Where's this? She's like, I can't talk about that. But at the end of the day, they're going to be paying a lot of money as part of their settlement. And so she's like, we're not raising dues this year, but she doesn't say not next year.
Yeah.
And they have funds set aside. I forget how the payment schedule works. I think it's a 3-year payment schedule, so X amount this year and then the 2 years. But it's a lot of money that they're paying out. Now, they have the money to pay it.
Yeah.
But it's your membership dues that are helping fund that. So just be aware of it. But very good interview. For those of you that don't know the CEO of NAR, I think it'll give you good insights into it. And like I said, it's on YouTube. Just do a search for Inman Connect Nikea Wright interview. I don't know if you have any.
I think, Matt, your admonition of know the national, know the state, know the local, I think it's enough. It's hard enough for an agent to understand how to sell a home and how to work with buyers and all that. But I think as a independent business person that you are as an agent, becoming knowledgeable about that is going to be part of your role as a professional.
I would agree. And most realtors out there, I hate to say it, you're not involved because you don't have the time to be involved. And you're hoping and trusting that your membership organization is looking out for your best interest. And there's a small percentage of you that will get involved at the local level, a smaller percentage that will get involved at the state level, and then an even smaller percentage that will get involved with the national level. But I encourage you to research and become involved as much as you can.
Matt, one of the ways that they are getting smarter by the minute is just watching our podcast.
Agreed.
All right.
I think this is the number one resource for any real estate professional on the legal and or practitioner side. Amen.
All right, Matt, what's next?
We got Supreme Court denies NAR request to review Department of Justice case. 3 months ago, NAR sought the Supreme Court to say we're not going to, so the Supreme Court declined to hear the case from NAR and upheld a U.S. Court of Appeals decision that allows the Department of Justice to proceed with future investigations. NAR was saying our settlement precludes you, Department of Justice, from ever coming at us again. The Supreme Court reviewed this case, or did not review it, which means the lower court standing holds true, which means at some point the Department of Justice can reinvestigate and still re-gin up certain things related to NAR and the commission practices. Now there's two sides of it, meaning the Department of Justice will go after it. Some people will say that. The other side of it is with the new administration, the Department of Justice will not be going after anything related to real estate and the commission.
And there's some question as to whether the CFPB will actually remain.
CFPB, it's funny, I had a conversation with one of our colleagues and we were saying, I don't think that's going to exist.
Okay, so there you go.
In the, and that's, we talked about that in a previous
we
episode,
did.
so we
Refer
won't
back if you
regen
need to.
that up. Yeah. But yeah, there's more to come in regarding like potential Department of Justice actions. Steve and I have not discussed on this podcast about clear cooperation. We may save that for a future episode, but that's a whole deep dive regarding that. Speaking of lawsuits, Steve,
let's hear it.
There's another NAR lawsuit from coming out of Texas from a local broker named Lou Italis. And she claims and argues in her lawsuit that the association is no longer serving its members' best interest. She, along with other real estate pros, is suing NAR's requirement that agents have to join, once again, the local, state, and national associations to access their MLS. She said a lot of her members who were realtors didn't renew their realtor memberships, and she still wanted to hire them, and she couldn't based on the mandate from NAR that says you have to.
MLS.
Correct. So that's another lawsuit, and once again, this little article talks about what's happening in Phoenix and them hiring Jared Grasso as their industry senior VP.
Okay, Matt, so in summary, here's what we're hearing, right? The NAR's rebooting and retooling. They got new experts in. The NAR is coming under fire by
everybody.
No. By law professor Tanya Monastir, right? So she's saying, hey, sellers didn't get the benefit of this lawsuit. Then we have Phoenix going, I'm out. Now we have brokers suing the NAR. So there's a lot of balls, a lot of fights are fighting on a lot of fronts.
Correct. So your dues dollars are being put into a large legal fund to fight numerous lawsuits and future lawsuits because they're going to keep coming.
Yeah.
And this is, there's one in Michigan, there's one in Phoenix, there's now one in Texas. And I think you and I have predicted last month when we did our predictions, I said there are going to be more lawsuits associated with NAR. So a lot of work to do, a lot of cleanup, as you're saying. So that's why they've hired these two key positions, and I expect more things to happen this year. So that's what's happening. All right, moving forward, you ready?
We're ready. U.S. inflation, mortgage rates, mortgage news. Let's talk about it, Matt.
So 2024 is in the books. And
it's done.
And it was the slowest sales of homes since?
1995.
Correct. So I think that was the prediction, and it held true that 1995 was one of the worst years for real estate, and this year is equally as bad. Or last year was equally as bad. So last year, the U.S. housing market had its slowest annual home sales since '95, with just over 4 million previously occupied homes sold. So it's actually better than I think we thought it was going to be, because it was tracking under 4 million, so it just crept above that 4 million.
And we've heard a lot of different economists and prognosticators on this, Matt, and I think the general consensus is it's about as low as it can go. In other words, there's not much more that it can go down, because there are just reasons why people need to sell and buy, and those reasons will always exist. They talk about the 7 Ds. I'm not going to talk about them all, but divorce, death, kids, diploma, blah, 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 and descendants. And so, these things are happening all the time, no matter what. Even at the highest interest rates, there's a certain amount of homes going to be sold, and that was about the bottom of it.
So yes, as Steve's saying, based on information that we've seen, last year was the bottom of the market. So there's nowhere to go but up. It may not be a huge jump this year, but it will be a better year than last year because it was so low. So that's the big takeaway. Here's a big takeaway. So the U.S. population in 1995, 267 million people. So around 4 million existing home sales. Last year, 4 million existing home sales, 340 million population. So even though it's the same 30 years apart, the U.S. population has increased by a lot.
Yeah, by a third, basically.
So,
and home sales has been right there at that. So, and they're talking about increase on affordability, limited inventory, higher interest rates, and economic.
All those things we've talked about over the last year, which has impacted the housing market, which still hold true today, which is it's so expensive. Existing home sales are low.
Interest rates
Nobody's, lock-in effect of people's mortgages. There is a psychological effect that's happening now where people realize that mortgage rates are not going to be going down to the threes anymore, 2s and 3s. So 6 to 7% is the new norm.
Yep.
So people will accept that.
All right, Matt. So I see here something interesting. The tax that's stopping older homeowners from selling their valuable property. So usually you'd have these older folks that would say, my home's too big, everyone's left, I'm going to sell. But what are they afraid of?
So I'm sure you and the real estate practitioners know this. There is a capital gains tax, $250,000 for single or $500,000 for joint filers. So if you sell your house, let's say I bought my house for $250,000 and it's now worth $1 million. I am going to be taxed
on $500,000.
On $500,000 if I sell my house now. And so there's a lot of older homeowners across the country that are finding this out. Like, I don't want to be paying this huge capital gains tax, so I'm going to keep my house.
Right.
Or figure out a way to divest myself or put it in a trust or however on a tax basis to get it out of my name so it's not. So that is another key driver, not a huge percentage, but it's enough that's not helping existing home sales, that people who have been long-term in their house and have appreciated, because home, luckily, have appreciated nicely. So those of you that bought 50 years ago, let's say you paid $100,000 for your house and it's now worth $1 million, kudos to you, but now you're going to bite the bullet and have to pay this capital gains tax. So it was,
Matt,
and I forget when this happened. I think it was during the Clinton years of his administration that this went into effect. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was around that time. And so to address this issue, there's a representative, I think out of California, that's saying we need to fix this and propose a bill that would double the tax exclusion and
adjust it. Because it did not account for inflation, right?
Correct. So
Matt, my take on this, what's the takeaway if I'm a realtor, is I would definitely have a real estate tax strategist in my pocket, so that if that ever becomes, or if someone is hesitating because of that, you have strategies, you have insights, you have coaching that you can provide that will help overcome that objection. And so people are not just looking for the type of home, they're looking for a financial plan to be part of what is, for many, their greatest asset.
correct.
So, okay.
So it's just something to keep it.
Have a real estate tax strategist in your pocket.
And just be aware of it, because people may not even know this exists. Like that, I guarantee there's a large percentage of home sellers out there that don't even know this exists. And you, as a trusted advisor, as a realtor to these clients, I would say that's part of your conversation, especially if you know when you see what they paid and what their list price is. I would say be proactive and say, you need to be aware of this capital gains tax that you're going to have to pay. And is there a way around that? And like Steve said, have a tax advisor professional in your back pocket to assist with those situations.
Got it. Okay, Matt, inflation rates.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about inflation. So the Fed last met on January 29th. They did not touch rates. So, no raising or lowering of rates. They have stayed the same. So that remains about 4.3%. So as you know, those impact both long-term and short-term interest rates. We'll talk about mortgage in a second. The CPI increased. I won't go into the details, but it's not at that 2% goal that they have been hoping for. Last month, it was at 2.9%. So inflation still going up. Core inflation, which takes out food and energy, that went up a little bit the last month. So over the last year, core index increased by 3.2%.
Okay.
So that's the core inflation rate, which means year over year, we're paying just over 3% more than we did last year.
Great.
Which makes sense, as you see.
Right.
So as a side note, my wife and I were shopping. She comes with me periodically, and she likes, sorry, Terry, but you like your popsicles.
You honestly think she's watching this, Matt?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Hi, Terry. How are you?
And
yeah.
Box of popsicles used to be 18 months ago, $3.99, $6.49 yesterday. Popsicles, sugar water.
Sugar water.
Well, this is sugar-free popsicles,
Right.
so sugar-free water and flavoring.
Wow.
Just as a side note, but things are,
And maybe red dye 40.
no, not anymore. But
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's been
not
outlawed.
anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, prices are, you see it each time you go in the grocery store, especially. Now, if you're buying a TV,
Yeah.
not too bad.
Right. And Matt, everyone wants the value of their home to go up, but no one wants the cost of eggs to go up. So, it's
Right.
like, you can't necessarily have one without the other.
Correct. So interesting times. Inflation is still not tamped down. Rates have remained the same. I forget the next time their quarterly meeting is, but we'll keep you updated on that. Mortgage rates have pretty much been static for the last 12 months. Currently hovering just below 7%, 6.9, 6.95 for a 30-year, 5.95, 6% for a 15-year. New normal.
Yeah.
And we predict what will happen with mortgage rates this year. I think they're going to be very what we're seeing this year.
Yeah, and
right now.
and the consensus is, or at least, and my prediction will be that we're going to see a normal real estate market this year. You're going to see action, you're going to see activity, you're going to see buying and selling, and the interest rate discussion is going to float away to the background because it's going to just, this and that, it's going to just be right around in those sixes somewhere, and it's going to be a non-factor as it was before. Oh, take advantage of interest rates is not the main reason anymore that people are going to be buying and selling.
Correct. It is. It's become accepted.
Okay, man.
Sam?
U.S. existing home sales and prices.
Yep. So we touched upon this year end, just over 4 million, lowest since 1995. Home prices, median home prices, are at the highest ever at $407,500, which is almost 5% higher year over year. In December, existing home sales rose just over 2%, and year over year growth. Sales in December's were 9% higher to the year before, so that's good. And like I said, median home prices are up year over year at their highest levels ever. So just a brief brushstroke of what's happening, and that's nationwide. Locally here in the Chicago metro area for year end 2024, the median sales price was $350,000. The closed sales was just over 88,000, which was actually lower than 2023. So as Steve and I said, Last year was probably the bottom of the bottom in terms of real estate transactions.
Matt, and year to date, so that's a $25,000 increase in median homes.
Correct,
median
from 23 to 24.
That's a big jump. So just think about it from that standpoint that the longer you wait, I know you're never ready to buy a home, but every time you look, you go, dang, I wish they would go down. Let me just break it to you. They're generally speaking, and we saw a unique housing bubble in that '08, but they're not going to go down.
Yeah, and it's still, real estate is a tremendous long-term investment. There are, as you know, with any financial investment, there are ups and downs, but if you look at the long-term graph of the stock market, real estate prices, existing home prices, it goes on an upward trajectory. So the time to buy real estate, if you can, is now.
Yeah, the best time was yesterday.
Right, and
the
I
better time is now.
I agree with it. I mean, you and I can have this discussions. If you went back 30 years, man, I should have done this. I would have done this. I could have bought this. So,
what's happening at Land Trust here, Matt?
Land Trust. So there's a couple of exciting announcements for you attorneys out there. If you haven't seen the announcements, we have 2 upcoming CLEs. It's the same topic, ensuring fiduciary transactions and providing extended coverage, hosted by us at Land Trust with our great speakers, Scott Lascari and Eric Anderson. For those of you that have attended, 2 of the best presenters of CLEs out there.
Plus, you get to meet the whole Land Trust team.
And Land Trust team is out there. We give you also updates during the CLE of what's happening, not only with Land Trust, but also what's happening in the real estate industry, title industry, anything that you need to know regarding safeguarding and securing the transaction, which we have a lot that we're doing for attorneys, realtors, and obviously home buyers and sellers to secure the transaction.
A lot of wire fraud out there, a lot of fraud in general, and we stop it all.
Correct. So we have a lot of stuff. So we talk about that a little bit. But the first CLE will be in Oak Brook on February 11th, and then the same topic will be in the Chicago Loop on February 19th. So if you haven't signed up and you're looking for some great in-person CLEs, we have great signups for Oak Brook, and we're getting there for the Loop. So those are 2 things happening. Another announcement, we just launched our first ever YouTube channel. Posted
That's big news, Matt.
It was big news. We actually posted it, and our Vice President of Sales, Tony Zielinski, has taken it upon himself to create some AI-generated videos. So we posted one that explains what title insurance is. So if you ever got the question, what the heck is title insurance? We have a
you can answer that.
2-minute video that explains it, and it's great. It's gotten some great viewers already. We just literally just posted this last Friday. So check it out. We're going to be posting more videos incrementally throughout the future. So that's happening. What did I say? Oh, if you haven't checked out Steve's latest People Not Titles podcast, check it out. He has a great interview with local real estate attorney Mike Mazek.
We talk about.
He's a three-peater.
Yeah,
so this is his 3rd time appearance on it, and he talks about Northwest Side Housing Preservation Ordinance, 8.0 contracts, what's happening in the Chicago market. Talks about his anniversary, 15 years for his firm, correct?
Yes, he's enjoying 15 years of service to the Chicagoland community.
So Mike is a great friend and partner of Land Trust, but a great guy nonetheless, and a great interview. So.
Great interview.
And then if you haven't caught the previous episode with our latest sales rep, Rosa Castanedas, another great interview to get to know one of our top salespeople who joined us last year. Quick interview, but it gives you some great where she came from and how she has really positioned herself as one of the top title reps in the Chicago metro area.
Absolutely.
So
and coming up here, we have the youngest candidate for mayor in Chicago.
Oh, yes.
Jamal Green. We had a great interview together. I think everyone is really going to enjoy that. He's an advocate for Chicagoans and Chicago real estate, and so he ran in 2019. He also ran again in 2023, and he is he's an activist. He's an American activist, and
a realtor.
Really like that, and a realtor,
and a realtor,
and a realtor. So people, not titles.
Yes.
All right, Matt. This coming Sunday. Hopefully, this will be up before Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
So, Super Bowl predictions.
I
Who are you going with?
I've been saying it since day one. Kansas City's going. I think they're going to win with the three-peat.
Okay, you think they're going to go three-peat.
They seem to thrive when playoff, like when Michael Jordan played. He can care less about the regular season. He said, "Just get me to the playoffs."
Okay.
And I feel Kansas City.
That vibe?
I just they're the team, and I don't hate them. I like these guys. So I had said my prediction was wrong. I said it was going to be Detroit and Kansas City in the Super Bowl.
Okay,
so
you're
I
close.
admit
You're
I was
50%
wrong.
right.
Was wrong, but I think Kansas City. Yourself?
Matt, I am going, and I'm going to bet you $1.
Done.
I'm doing the Eagles.
Okay,
I'm
straight
going
up.
With the
Straight
Eagles.
up.
Straight up.
Done.
And
Let's shake on it.
yeah, the Chiefs are a 4-point favorite, are they?
I don't know the spread.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not a gambler.
Me
so
neither.
I don't
Neither am
know.
I. So, but I'm going Eagles. We got $1 bet on it.
Done.
And okay, so I think we're done.
I think we're good, and we look forward to next month. We'll have plenty of new information to share, and always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
listen, like, subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment, say, hey, Steve, we like you more than Matt, which I know that's what you're all thinking. And don't forget to share this. If you are thinking, hey, I have a colleague that this information would help, share our video. Thanks a lot.
Signing off. Thank you.
Signing off, People Not Titles podcast. Blessings. Hey, thanks for listening to the People Not Titles podcast. We are proudly sponsored by Land Trust Title Services. If you enjoyed the podcast, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. And we'd love it if you'd share our podcast with your friends. Thanks a lot.